Yeah, well, let's dig in. Hello, everybody. I'm David Cooks, and I tell you what, we know that paralysis can take on many forms. It can be physical like mine, or it can be psychological. You put your mind to. And what we try to do is feature stories that go from difficult places to fulfilling purpose. What seems impossible can be done by you. Today I get a 2-for-1. I've never had two on the show at the same time, so I don't know how this is going to work, but we're going to go for it. It may knock you down, but don't let it stop you. Today we've got Johnny Bridgewater and Keith Kahfeldt with us. They do a lot of stuff to help people's quality of life become better.
I started getting in a little bit of trouble. I'm not gonna lie, looking for love in all the wrong places. Mm-hmm. And then a couple of my best friend died, when he was 17. Mm-hmm. And I didn't want to be like that. I didn't want to be dead. You know what I'm saying? I kind of kept to myself. I didn't want to be like them, but yet I was like them without, I was like naive to the fact that I really was doing the same stuff, right? Because it wasn't as bad, or, it wasn't as late at night, or I had a chip on my shoulder. So I always wanted to fight. I always wanted to, but I had a whole new outlook of life when he passed away. Got so much to give, a lot of life to live. You must go from paralysis to purpose. Get your pen and paper out. Yeah. I'm taking notes. Paralysis to purpose. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Paralysis to Purpose to Podcast. I'm your host, David Cooks. And before we get into our show today, let me thank you for subscribing to this podcast, hitting that like button, and sharing it with somebody else. I say it every week or every time I talk to you. It might be weekly when you listen, hopefully, that I am the greatest. I have the greatest job in the entire world. I get to sit down and have conversations with some of the most intriguing and inspiring people in the world. And today is no exception. Today, I get a 2-for-1. I've never had two on the show at the same time, so I don't know how this is going to work, but we're going to go for it. Today, we've got Johnny Bridgewater and Keith Kahfeldt with us from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And I've known Keith for a few years. I coached him when he was a basketball player at Concordia University, where he actually finished up his career with a degree in communications. And he's not doing that now. We're going to talk about that. And then Johnny Bridgewater, I call him a visionary. He's a licensed sports performance specialist and a sports nutritionist who educates his athletes from all walks of life to achieve the ultimate level of health. They have Bridgewater Performance, which is a sports enhancement facility.
Sports enhancement facility. See,
and we also have a fitness center attached to it.
So, you see, this is why I'm interviewing you. And so you've got a fitness facility attached to it and sport enhancement. So they do a lot of stuff to help people's quality of life become better. So we're going to talk about that today. And they deal with middle school, high school, college, professional athletes, and people of all walks of life. So it's exciting for me to have them both here. So let me just stop and welcome Johnny and Keith to Paralysis to Purpose to Podcast.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
But Keith is the one with the hat on. For those who are
that's me. I'm Keith. I'm Keith.
I'm Johnny.
For those who are watching, those who are listening, Keith has got his baseball cap on backward, and then Johnny's got dreads, and he's got dreads that have color in them too. So there you have it.
I'm different.
You can't mistake us. We're different, so you can't mistake us.
My wife actually gave us a nickname. She calls us Ke-onny. Keith and Johnny mixed together.
Oh, I was like, what the?
Kind of like Bradgelina. It's.
Oh boy.
We just roll with it. We just
where are we going on this podcast? Well, hey, just welcome, Johnny. Let's get started with you because you are the founder of Bridgewater Performance. And I want to find out about that and when that vision became yours. But before that, could you just share your background a little bit, where you're from, where you went to school and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so I grew up inner city Milwaukee. My parents were like 14 and 15. And excuse me if I get choked up because I'm very passionate about what happened. So I had great grandparents and it was like for real a struggle growing up. I'm one of 31 cousins. We didn't grow up very wealthy. My grandfather worked at Allen Bradley, which is a factory job just to make ends meet. And I kind of grew up in both ghettos. So I kind of had, I'm half Black and I'm half Spanish. So it's kind of like
each way I went, either I wasn't Black enough, or to be honest, or I was the Black kid in the Spanish area. Just had a lot of adversity. And, you know, growing up, I was like, I'm going to do something with my life. I don't want to be like everybody else. And I kept fighting. And I hold a lot of stuff in, which I used as, you know, fuel in my tank to make sure my gas tank was always full, to keep that motivation. And always remember, I was a really good football player, started getting college interest. And then fortunately, but unfortunately, I had my son at 18 right as I finished my senior year. So I never got to pursue my dream really of playing college football. Because I never had a dad like that. So I wanted to make sure that I could give my son, you know, I don't believe in abortion or nothing like that. I made a choice. I knew what I was doing. It wasn't almost like, you know what I'm saying? Like when you're doing what you're doing, you're young, you don't think of the consequences, but deep down, you know. So I just wanted to make sure I was there for him. And you know, I just kept praying. Like, God, I got to do something with my life. And I moved out to California for a little bit, and then I was blessed enough to try out and make a football team out there. And my son was with me, and I found training through some really good trainers out there. And then I started training, watching people train Brandon Jennings and kind of learning from that when he was at Cal Poly. And then I had Tracy Murray, who used to play UCLA. And so I got into this, and I felt like that was a sign from God, like, hey, this is your calling. You couldn't play sports, but now you get to help all these athletes in sports. So it just kind of started like that. And I latched on. I probably annoyed everybody because I was that kid that asked millions of questions because I didn't know what I didn't know. I got a couple of certifications and I thought it was the real deal. California just didn't work out as it just was so expensive, you know, and I was like, I'm never going to make it. Let's go back home. So we came back home, and I got tired of working for people. I kind of had this mindset, like, not that I raised myself, but I was alone a lot. So I was like, I don't need anybody else. I made it this far by myself. So I just kept grinding. And then I started training Tyler Hero at the park. I didn't have a gym. And then I started training some of his friends. And then I found a little gym over here that let me rent some space. And when I rented the space, I was like, I'm starting Bridgewater Performance.
Wow.
Hey, this is what it has to be. I'm at the park. And the next thing you know, I got 25 kids bringing me $10 a piece, you know, a couple times a week. And I'm like, man, I could really do something with this. So between the park, between that, I finally got my own spot, about 4,000 square feet, got some used turf from Rutgers University when they tore up their soccer field. We laid it down, glued it down. It probably was a little janky, but it worked. And I started getting so many kids, I couldn't fit them in the place. So I'm like, man, this is such a blessing. And I always heard about Keith because Keith was, quote unquote, my replacement at the other garage gym I was at. Mm-hmm. And I started seeing some of his stuff online. And I was like, man, if I get to the blessing, because we found this place in Franklin where we're at right now. I was like, if I get this blessing, God, if you allow me to have this, I want to bring Keith with me. Mm-hmm. So I didn't want to reach out to Keith. I kind of did it in a roundabout way because I didn't know him like that. We had a mutual friend and I reached out to him and I was like, hey, can you set this up? Me and Keith met and it's been like literally like my brother, like my best friend.
I want to just go back a little bit and touch on some of that and how your perspective changed over time, because as much as we are a product of our environment, I don't believe we have to stay a product of our environment. I actually think that we can change from where we came from. Having your son was obviously a very pivotal moment for you in your life. Yeah. Was that the defining moment where you decided it doesn't matter where I've come from or how the system may or may not work for me? Right. I need to make a change. When did you know you needed to make this change?
I started getting into a little bit of trouble. I'm not gonna lie, looking for love in all the wrong places. Mm-hmm. And then a couple of my best friend died. When he was 17. Mm-hmm. And I didn't want to be like that. I didn't want to be dead. And that was like my dude, like my ride or die. Like growing up, that's kind of, we had each other. He kind of had a weird situation, moved from New York, parents passed away. He was raised by his grandparents. So we just hit it off. And I was just like, man, what am I doing? Like, you know what I'm saying? I kind of kept to myself. I didn't want to be like them, but yet I was like them without, like I was like naive to the fact that I really was doing the same stuff,
right?
Because it wasn't as bad, or it wasn't as late at night, or this and that. So I just, I got kicked out of Milwaukee Public Schools too in middle school, which if people listening know, it's hard to get kicked out of Milwaukee Public Schools. So
and middle school at that.
And middle school, I just had a chip on my shoulder. So I always wanted to fight. I always wanted to, but that's also what helps me too. I'm such a passionate person that I use my passion for a purpose, instead of excuses, or, you know what I mean? So many people, like I said, I kept my tank full and I used my fuel for positivity instead of negative. So like, I had a whole new outlook of life when he passed away. He passed away too, as my son was still in his mother's stomach. All that time, like between 16 and 17 years old, it took a lot of punches in the face, to realize like, man, this is the last punch I feel like taking.
Yeah.
So I just really, really started grinding when I moved out to California. I just found myself. There was times I would just literally sit in the sand on the beach and watch the sun, and just talk to God. I really gave my life to God. Even though I'm still a bad example, I'm not going to lie and sit here and act like I walk like a saint.
Before we started, we talked about the fact that there's nobody's journey that's linear. I mean, everybody's journey has got turns and twists and different things. And as long as you're on the right road, I think that's all that's important, and then you can't allow for other people to interfere with the process that you're making. So let me talk to Keith and get Keith.
Go ahead.
Because this is interesting, because I didn't know that. I didn't know that about you at all, Johnny, and I didn't, because I've never met you before. But your story is amazing, and I'm glad we have an opportunity to share this with people around the world. Keith, your background's a little different.
Yep. It's actually a lot different,
at least based on what I know. You came from a family with two loving parents, suburban home situation, great school district. Good family. Share a little bit about that, and then your college experience, and also what was it that made you decide to do what you do now?
Yeah. So I grew up with, like you said, two loving parents. Like, they've given me everything in this world, and like I'll always say that. I also have an awesome brother as well. So I went to New Berlin, Eisenhower. So I lived in New Berlin. If you guys don't know, it's a suburb of Milwaukee. And essentially, my childhood revolved around basketball. I mean, that was it. Like, from when I could walk, I had a basketball in my hand. So like, when people ask you when you're a little kid, like, what do you want to do? It was NBA. I was going to NBA. I was going to be a star. That's what I wanted to do. I had it all mapped out. I had posters in my room, typical hooper. So one thing for me in high school and middle school is I was limited. So like, I had skill, like basketball skill, but I used to be overweight. I used to have bad knees. I had a bad body, right? So like, I had the will and I had the height, but like, I didn't have the body for it, right? So I pushed past it. I'm competitive. Like, I'm probably one of the most competitive people you'll ever meet. So I do what I can with what I have, right? And that's one of my things. Johnny talked about the chip on his shoulder. Mine's a little bit different. Mine's like, I'm going to prove you wrong. I want you to tell me I can't do something, because I'm going to show you I can, whatever it takes. So fast forward a little bit, in high school, I'm getting recruited by some D1s, D2s, D3s. I was struggling with what I wanted to do. So I wanted to make an impact, right? I wanted to play right away. Sean reached out to me, head coach at Concordia. And it just felt like the right fit. I don't know how to explain it, but when I walked on campus, I had offers at other schools that were awesome. Concordia was like home to me right off the bat. I also had a roommate, my roommate, Jake. He was going there and I already knew him, so it was comfortable. But that's how I ended up at Concordia. It was just like a fit thing for me. And my brother actually transferred. I got to play with my brother. I'm big on family. And that was cool. We never got to play together. So fast forward to Concordia. That's where I really started to find out about myself. So people would ask me, I was undecided until sophomore year, right? I was your typical basketball player. What do you want to do? I'm gonna play overseas. I'm playing NBA. I'll do a communications major because like I can do a lot of stuff with that, right? But I didn't know what I wanted to do. Like, it was starting to come down to the wire, and I had the opportunity to get a tryout with like some overseas stuff, get an agent, do that whole thing. But going back to my body, I was broke. I was like, I couldn't do anymore. It was time. I knew it was time. So my senior year, I'm starting to scramble. Like, I remember after basketball season, senior year, I was like sitting at my house at college and I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I was like scared. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, I can't play basketball anymore. I need to fill this void somehow. I lined up a job at Northwestern Mutual. Like, it's a super good company. Great opportunity. I was in the annuity new business department. So I was handling pensions, just stuff I didn't want to do. Like, I had no interest, right? I remember I would hate going to work. I was 9 to 5 on, whatever. I'm like, man, this sucks. So then probably fast forward 3 months from there, I'm sitting at Northwestern Mutual. And I'm like, I cannot do this anymore. I got up and I quit, like right then and there. I was like, sure, I'm done. So then I sat down that night. I'm like, what do I want to do? I like helping people. I love sports. I'm fascinated by what the human body can do. I'm a leader. Let's put those together. I wanted to be a trainer. I wanted to be a coach, right? Now, here's where you're talking about with that linear path, right? I had no education on how to train someone. I had no experience. I was going in as a 23-year-old. So I was like, dang, man, I don't know what I'm going to do. So I started applying to all these gyms. Like, I'll do whatever it takes. Just let me in. I'll do whatever it takes, blah, 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 blah. I got in at a 9-round. Now, if you're not familiar with 9-round, essentially it's just a kickboxing 30-minute workout. Like, you don't need a cert to do that. You can just like go there and help out. So I started by cleaning the bags, shadowing, pretty much picking up whatever I could. Essentially, I was like a glorified janitor. Now, at this time, I thought by being an ex-college athlete and by like looking the part, like trying to look good, people would start to train with me. And I found out it's not about how I look or what I do, it's what I can do for you. And I wasn't credible at all. So I went back to school in the form of certifications, seminars, conferences, anything I could do. I was putting all my money into that, and bless my parents, I was living with them. Otherwise, I would not have been here right now. There's no way. I was making under $9 an hour at 9-round. Like, I had no time to do anything else, but I dedicated. Just like with basketball, I sat down and had a real conversation with myself. And I'm like, you have to dedicate your life to this, like, fully. So it was a 3-year time period from 9-round to Strive. And I'll touch on Strive, where I was dedicated. I was doing whatever I could, dove in the books, went home and studied, worked. I would go to the local gym. You're not supposed to do this. I went to the local gym. And I had headphones on, right? But I didn't have any music on. And I'd sit there for like an hour or two and I would watch the trainers. And I'd be on my phone, like taking notes, like, okay, they're doing this and they're doing that. And this is how you communicate. And this is the sets and the reps and the blah, 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 blah. And I was just so hungry to be good at what I wanted to do, right? Because I was so passionate about it.
The role of passion, finding that thing that really drives you. And it's a journey sometime finding that. But once you find that, then you're willing. It sounds to me that no sacrifice is too great. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because then you begin to talk about, I know I shared in my book, Getting Undressed from Paralysis to Purpose, that once I took a 70% pay cut to leave corporate America to go into the academic world to help coach and serve young people, because I thought it was something I was supposed to do. And so the money wasn't an issue for me. I filled up water bottles at Duke and filed checks at the bank to get started. You did the same thing. It sounds like here, you just said you wanted to do anything and you were so hungry. You had an appetite to learn and you didn't care what it was you were doing. You said you were cleaning things and you were a janitor to get started.
In the bathroom, cleaning up sweat. I mean, can't get lower than that.
Why did you do that? Why did you stick with that? I mean, did you have moments where you're like, man, you know what? I might have to do something else. Oh,
weekly. So I used to have people weekly tell me, when are you getting a real job? Like, when you see someone, and you're like, yo, what do you do? And they're like, I tell them, and they're like, oh, so like, when are you going to get a real job? Like, when are you going to grow up? Like, that's essentially what they were telling me. But I saw the vision. I had a vision, just like Johnny had a vision with Bridgewater Performance. I had a vision of what my life, what I wanted it to look like. Right. I was just so passionate about it. Like, I have a one-track mind. Anybody that knows me knows this. If I'm on something, I am on it and you can't get me off of it. Like I could become healthy, obsessed with it. Right.
Yeah.
So I saw what I wanted to be. And I also, this goes back to my roots. I wanted to help people. Right. And I felt like I would be limited at a 9 to 5 if I wasn't passionate. I'm not doing people a service. I feel like I could reach a lot of people and I could help a lot of people. And that's my goal. Right.
Yep.
So despite the fact that I love what I do, and when I come in with Johnny, we do our thing in here, it's like, it's fun every day. Like we enjoy what we do, but we also help people. And that's what I'm most passionate about is I want to give people the tools to succeed, whatever that means for them.
I want to understand, when did you decide that you wanted to do your own thing? Because Johnny talked about that with him. And when did you decide to do your own thing? And then I want the two of you to talk about the significance of partnership and what that really means.
So for Elite Training MKE, just like how I'm helping Johnny here, he's actually my co-owner of that as well. So everything we do, we pretty much do together. And like bringing people in with partnership to touch on that is like, I couldn't do a lot of the stuff I do. I wouldn't be here right now. I wouldn't be able to do anything if it wasn't for him. Like I attribute almost all my success and where I'm at and the people I can work with now to him, because he gave me that foot in the door that actually opened me up to the world. So I'm forever grateful for that.
Can we talk about that? Because
yes.
So Johnny, you are involved in mentoring, obviously.
Yes.
And because it sounds like all the things you didn't have, you're becoming for Keith and other people. A mentor, a father, someone that creates opportunities. Can you talk about that and what that means to you to give back? Because a lot of people become successful and for whatever reason, they may not have that same passion. You're just as passionate about giving back as you are about training people. Could you touch on that, Johnny?
Yeah, I feel like it goes hand in hand. I love art, right? So I use art as a reference. So the Elite Training logo I created, different logos that we have in the gym I created. If you look at the double lion logo we had, I didn't actually create that one. I give that one to a good buddy of mine, Joe Hausch. However, we sat down with a vision. It is one lion. However, it looks like it's two lions looking at each other. However, but from a distance, it's actually one. So I like to help. So I'm also a keynote speaker for Generations Against Bullying. And I do a lot of talks and because I can relate to a lot of people. So I love just seeing people grow and succeed. It makes me excited. It's so weird. People like, I don't care about as dumb as it sounds, like money comes, don't get me wrong. Nobody wants to be broke. But I feel like if I focus on the money, I lose focus on what people need. So I always try to, I'm like, Keith, hey, I got this. You're coming with me. And like, sometimes it's an opportunity where it's like, damn, I don't want to pass that up for him, you know, or I introduce him to the right people or, you know, with my staff. Like I'm only as good as my staff, to be honest. I get satisfaction in my life seeing everybody else succeed. More people I help succeed, the more successful I feel.
I understand. I'm a speaker also. And for those people who aren't gifted to do what we do, they may not understand what we get, you know, from the vibe in the room and from how the people respond and what that does to us. And like you said, you know, money is important, but not at the expense of your purpose. Right. And I think that's what you were getting at, that you do it because when you give and you serve, it feeds you as well. And there's this other thing you get from that you can't quantify it. It's you couldn't pay me enough to do what I do, but you're going to pay me for what I do.
Right. For sure. Yeah. I mean, I don't consider this a job at all. Like I don't at all. And even when I go do like talks in places, like if I literally touch one heart out of 500 people, I did my purpose. You know what I mean? Because everybody's got a story. Everybody carries their own demons in different ways. You know, just because, you know, people have certain different life situations, suburban this, suburban that, ghetto this, it doesn't matter. Everybody deals with emotions. It just is what it is. That's what we're born with. So I just try to make sure that I can keep everybody's emotions high and I bring everybody who's in my corner with me.
I agree with you 100%. I think the most powerful thing any person has is their story.
And once they learn that it's okay to tell it, I think it begins to make a difference in other people's lives. I want to take a quick break right here. And then when we come back, I want to talk a little bit about the importance of partnerships. And we started talking about that a little bit. There are three things that we talk about on the podcast. We talk about perspective, perseverance, and partnerships, and how they get us from a place of paralysis. And we define paralysis as anything that will keep you from functioning at your highest level. Anything that will keep you functioning at your highest level, and to purpose where you are, the best version of yourself, and with that serving others. So we'll take a quick break, and then we'll be right back with our guest today on Paralysis to Purpose, the podcast.
Here's a chance to win a signed copy of David's inspiring book, detailing his personal journey, Getting Undressed, From Paralysis to Purpose. Each month, there will be 2 giveaways. Just leave us a review of today's podcast on the platform you're listening from. It's that easy. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Paralysis to Purpose for more updates. Also, check out David's website at davidcookspeaks.com.
Welcome back to Paralysis to Purpose, the podcast, with our guests, Johnny Bridgewater and Keith Kahfeldt from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And I tell you what, it's been, I don't know what you guys think, but the listener, that is, this has been an amazing conversation. And I'm excited to continue it. I want you all to talk a little bit about the importance of dreaming and having goals and being willing to take risk and be your authentic self. And I'll start off with you, Keith, because you talked about having a communications degree, and then you ended up doing something totally different. And sometimes people don't know that that's okay. Can you just talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, motivation is nothing without discipline, right? Mm-hmm. So like, if you don't have discipline, you can have all the dreams in the world, but what are you actually going to do with it? You know what I'm like? So everything you read, everything you do, everything you surround yourself with, you have to act on that, right? So in terms of dreaming, like, it's important to definitely have a dream, but you also got to like walk the walk with it, right? So we do internships and stuff here where I try and coach these kids on what they're doing. But the biggest thing is like, you got to be ready. So when people tell us this all the time. You guys are so lucky, man. You guys are lucky. You guys get to train athletes. You guys get to chill in the gym. I'm like, no. We're not lucky. We position ourselves to be ready so that when an opportunity comes, we can service, right? Because no matter how cool we are, how personable we are, how much people like us, it's results, right? It's a results industry. You know what I'm saying? So we put ourselves in position to be able to perform just like these athletes, right? So when I was trying to find what I wanted to do, essentially, I just took basketball and transitioned it to something else, right? I'm performing. Every single time I'm out here, I'm performing. It's a performance for me, right? I got to be on top of my game. No different than a football, basketball, soccer player. So I think that's a big one for people to understand, is that I had a dream, and how I acted on that dream was I made a plan.
You didn't stay asleep. You actually woke up from the dream and put together some action steps in order for you to help get to where you are right now.
Right. Because I'm thinking when I'm dreaming this, I'm like, how can I actually reach the people and train? Everyone wants to train pros and everything like that. How can I do that? Like, how can I? And it's like, the only way I could do that is by studying and having this, right? That's why education is so big to me. It can take you to so many different places in life. So like, once I put that into place and I became disciplined, I said, by 25, I want to do this, 27, this, 28, this, 30, this. And so far I've hit every single one of my goals, and I want to keep going with that. Right. But I think it's important to have a blueprint. You know, like, you can't, it's not good enough to just be like, I want to do this one day and maybe it'll happen. Maybe I'll get lucky. Like, no, you have to work to position yourself. And I find that if you do that, it usually turns out pretty well. So,
wow. Hey, Johnny, Keith talked about the fact that you guys really deal with a very special clientele, and you've done it at all kinds of levels, all kind of professionals. How do you guys stay grounded? How do you stay humbled? I mean, I've talked to a lot of people who do what you do, and some of them become untouchables. You guys just seem like a bunch of regular guys that are out here helping people. How do you stay grounded when you're dealing with multi-millionaire athletes and people that everyone else would love to just get close enough to touch, that you have relationships with?
I guess because everybody starts with a clean slate. I mean, I guess I don't look at them like the world looks at them. I look at them as just another person that I get to be able to help. So I guess and Keith can even attest to that. People are like, oh, you get to train Anthony Pettis and you're on ESPN. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm training Anthony Pettis, you know, just as I'm training a different non-UFC fighter, or I'm training, you know, another basketball kid, just like I'm training, you know, Tyler Hero, or I'm training another football kid like I'm training Braylon. And it's just like, everybody comes in and my main focus is how can I make them the best version of themselves, no matter who they are.
What I heard you say is you don't see their stature, you see their need, and you try to meet that need. Yeah. And you don't care. You really don't care who it is. And whoever it is, you're giving them your very best to make them their very best. So I want to talk about you two guys' relationship, because this is truly unique in my mind. I remember having breakfast with Keith. I don't even know how long ago this was, a couple of years back, at least maybe 3 or 4 years back. And that's when Keith was on his journey and was really starting to kind of find himself. And he said to me, I think I'm going to connect with this guy named Bridgewater. And I didn't know. I was like, I don't know who Johnny Bridgewater is. I'm like, if he's a great workout guy, go do it. That's all I knew. And I remember that morning, and I just said, hey, you know, go do your thing. And it's 4 years later now. And you guys seem like the odd couple to me. I'm like, oh my God. How does this?
It's kind of funny. I don't know.
How does this thing work?
Opposites attract, right? That's what they say.
And we laugh all the time. Like, honestly, if you put us together, like as one human, we would be the best trainer in the world. But unfortunately, we can't. So why not do it together? There's not many tandem training people. Like, there's a lot of successful people that do it on their own. But he brings something I just can't bring. And I bring something he just can't bring just because it's not in us. Yeah. But together.
So what would that thing be? Because I think you're absolutely right. I've never seen a tag team training going on. It's always, these are my kids. This is what I did. It's very much like that. Right. Yeah. And so what is it that, and I'm going to have you, Johnny, tell me what it is that Keith brings that you don't have. And then I want Keith to tell me, or tell our audience, what is it that Johnny brings that you don't have?
Okay.
So I feel like Keith brings a whole different level of knowledge than what I have, even though I know we can speak to each other the same way and understand each other. However, he literally helps me relay it in more of a like articulate way, more of a, because, you know, where I come from,
right? You're a street kid. You're a street kid.
I still kind of have a little edge. Like, I'll be like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. What do you think about it? Because I value his opinion, even if I don't want it or not want it, even if I don't feel like I need it, because the program I'm putting together, like, he would trust me to train his client. I trust him to train mine. So it's just the value he brings to what I already feel, because I already feel like I'm the best. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, if I wake up every day and I feel like I shower better than everybody, I brush my, I'm not kidding. I have to tell myself that, because I truly believe that I'm the best. However, he's me. We're together. So, like, if I think I'm the best, I think we're the best.
There's a certain tactfulness that needs to be had in what you do. And it's not an issue of your knowledge. It's just an issue of getting it from here out to there in a way that people can understand. And he does that for you. That's fantastic. And I will say this, the word respect comes to mind when I hear you talk about Keith and how you are the best at what you do. And if you don't believe that, you don't need to be doing it. I'm just telling you people that right now. I think I'm the best speaker in the entire world. And that's just what I believe. And I'm not going to do it if I don't think that, right? And so that doesn't mean I don't need coaching and I don't need advice and I don't need help, because I want to stay at that level. And in order for me to stay at that level, I'm going to need some input and somebody to check me once in a while too. Let me know, hold on now.
And just to piggyback off that real quick, it's deeper than training with Keith, because I struggle a lot with a lot of mental stuff still to this day. And he's just like truly the best friend I've ever had. Like, I can go to this man, like when I'm struggling mentally, he'll be like, hey man, come on, let's go talk. And like, he just listens and like gives me feedback from a perspective that I never could see because I just never had it. So it's just like, honestly, man, like, I don't know. It just may be weird. Like you said, the odd couple to this, to that. But I mean, I text him randomly all the time. Like, bro, I love you for real. Like
random,
like literally randomly. Like I'll just be sitting in the couch, be like, damn, I can't sleep right now, and just be like, you know what? I'm gonna tell everybody I love them, that I'm grateful for. So it's just like, it's bigger than this training stuff for me. Like, it just helps me be a better person in general.
Right. Okay.
So I'm just a passionate. It just happens.
Let me tell you something, man. Your vulnerability and your willingness to share is what makes you successful. I don't know you like that.
For sure.
This is our first time meeting, but I do know that in this day and age, people want to see what's real, and they want to know what's real and to be authentic. And I think that's what you're being. And so don't ever apologize for that. Don't ever apologize for showing emotion. Don't ever apologize for talking about difficulty, because that's what you have to do. And that's part of your therapy. That's part of you learning how to grow and get past that, because everybody can't say what you just said and have the emotion you just had. So don't apologize for that. Keith, what does he bring to you that makes you better? Because he talked about the stuff that you bring to him that makes him better.
Yeah. The biggest thing for me is his presence, his ability to connect with people, his ability to relate to people, his ability to communicate. I'm a pretty good communicator myself, but like you said, he brings the emotion. I bring emotion too, but he does it in a different way where people can really like connect with him more. So that's one thing he brings for me, is just the ability to actually like be real and be himself. I think that's why so many people like him and want to be with him. It's because like, he doesn't hide anything. I mean, it's pretty clear. Like he doesn't hide. You know how Johnny's feeling. When he walks in, I know how Johnny's feeling. Like, you know, it's like, he doesn't hide it, right? But people like seeing that. You said that before. People like seeing the real you, right? And I think for me, it's cool because I can learn from him with that, is like how to relate to people, how to be in control of a room. Before I got my major, before I came here, I wasn't the best like speaker, and I wasn't the best in a crowd. Now I can rock out. I can talk in front of anybody. Like it's fine. But I'm a student of the game for whatever I do. I take notes from him. You know, like how he presents himself, his confidence, everything. Like I took notes in the beginning when we first met each other, when I didn't really know him. Okay, he's doing this. He does this when he's talking. Okay, like he does a great job with that. And I think that's something that's really beneficial for me, is just to see like how the poise he has and the character he has it's really impressive. So that's probably the biggest thing for me. There's a lot of stuff that Johnny brings to the table, but just his ability to like be himself and just to like own the room and just to in front of a crowd, he flips a switch. So if we do like a group training thing or something, turns into this character. Crazy. Yeah, he turns into this character. Like, it's like, oh, where'd this come from? Like, you know what I'm saying? He's like really chill in person, but like once he gets in front of a crowd, it's like a character. It's like a TV character. It's kind of cool to see, because people like seeing that too, because like it's part of the show, right? So it's cool.
I know it's funny because one of the parents was like, I was trying to explain your style of training, and I was like, if you go there, just make sure you get your popcorn ready, because
it's gonna be a show.
It's gonna be a show, and I'm not for everybody, to be honest. Mm-hmm. You know, I might be a little too much, a little too this, but I warn people in the beginning, like, listen, I can guarantee you, if your kid listens, I'm gonna get him results. However, I might not be that personality for him if he's an introvert and he doesn't want to try anything different, because I'm going to make you talk. How long did it take Jax to talk?
Man, it takes some of these kids 2 years.
So Jax has been with me. This kid is a phenomenal athlete. From 4th grade through 7th grade, had 104 rushing touchdowns. I can't make those numbers up. But Jax, it got to the point where I was like, how am I going to get to Jax? Because when I would talk to his mom would be like, he only wants to train with you. He loves coming. He says you make him smile, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, I'm going to start counting how many words he says in the session. Mm. And then I'm going to laugh and be like, Mom, he said 8 words today. Now we can't get Jax to shut up. I love it. I love it.
Well, and I tell you what, that's
That's just great. Your relationship, your ability to connect with people. I was fortunate enough to be with Coach K a couple of years in the early 90s, and people often ask me, what do you think makes him different than other coaches you've been around? And I thought it was his connectability with people.
For sure.
And that ability to control a room when you get in there. As a speaker, I understand what that means. When you come in, you get ready to do your thing, it should be quiet. People should be focused. They should be listening to you. So I get that. Before we end today, I wanted to just have you guys respond to the importance of perspective, perseverance, and partnerships in your journey and how that has impacted your journey. And so we'll just do it one word at a time, and whatever comes to mind or whatever was significant about that, I'd like for you to share that with our audience. So let's talk about perspective.
I'll go first. So first, perspective for me is it's not what happens, it's how you respond. I mean, everyone can look at different situations. You can do the glass half full thing, whatever, but everything is a lesson, right? If you don't go through life, if you keep doing the same thing, everything is a lesson. So you got to learn from your mistakes, learn from your failures, and just get better, right? So something I really try and teach all my athletes is like, it might not go your way. Some stuff might be bad, but how are you going to respond, and how do you look at this?
Johnny?
My perspective is, if you listen to respond, you'll never get anywhere. You need to listen to understand, no matter who it's from, whether it's the voices in your head, because let's be honest, everybody talks to themselves. They're a liar if they don't. Should I do this? Shouldn't I do this? To your mentors, to your coaches, especially your parents, whatever religious beliefs you have. That way, just think about listening to understand, and life will come a lot easier.
Wow. How has perseverance been important to you guys on your journey? The biggest difference between a lot of people who have success and those who don't are those who stopped.
Right. And one thing I want to hit on is, and I believe I spoke to this before, but I will say it again, is like, failure can't happen if you give 100%. What I mean by that is, if you climb the mountain without any stopping, and you get to the top of the mountain, and what you thought was at the top of the mountain is not there, you didn't fail if you climb that mountain to the best of your ability. However, if you get to the top and what you thought is not there, well, we got to find another mountain, because it's there if you keep climbing.
Keith, what about you on perseverance? What does that mean to you, and how important is it?
Just never giving up. I mean, failure to me is just, it's going to happen. You're going to fail at some point in your life. Like, everyone fails at something, right? But going back to responses, it's how you respond, right? So like, everything worth doing is usually going to be hard in life. And I know that's a cliche, but it's true. And I just think, like, too many people, when they hit adversity, they give up, or they do something else, or they go a different route, or path of least resistance, right? So I think it's important just to, like, it's important to respond out of wisdom and not emotion. It's easy to respond out of emotion, like frustration, anger, sadness, whatever. But if you step back and you respond out of wisdom, and you reflect with wisdom and say, why is this happening? How can I change it? What can I do? I think that's what everyone needs to try and do in situations. You need to go with what you are destined to be. And I truly believe that. And if I didn't take risks, and if I stopped at failure, I wouldn't be here sitting next to him right now on this podcast with you. God had a plan for me in life, and it's this. Like, I know 100%, right? And I had to go through, I could give you 2 hours. Failures, man. Like, but I never gave up. No matter how hard it got, I never gave up.
Well, you've made it clear already in this podcast what partnerships mean, but I'm going to give you a chance to give me a brief statement about the importance of partnerships in your lives, individually and collectively.
So I have trust issues. That's a big downfall I have. And I just trust people. I trust Keith. I trust my wife. I trust my kids. So I have a very tight circle. Like he said, a lot of people know me. I'm very respectful and say what's up. And I love everybody, but I don't trust everybody. So I keep my circle super small. And if you're in my circle, I don't have friends. I tell you, oh, you have so many friends. No. I don't have friends. I said, if you're in my circle, you're my family. You know, Keith is my brother, best friend, brother. So my thing is partnership is one word, trust. It's anything. Trust. Because without that, it's nothing. Anybody can love somebody. I learned that. You could love somebody. But if you're not committed because you don't trust it, because even commitment, we could do a spider web, and it all starts with the word trust in the middle.
I don't know if you remember this. at that breakfast, the biggest topic we talked about, you can't have love without trust.
Did I say
that was the topic we were talking. I remember that. That was the topic we were talking about. So that's a big thing for our relationship because nobody's ever done anything alone, right? I'd be foolish. She'd be foolish to be like, I'm going to do this on my own. That's impossible. You have to surround yourself with the right people, right? But that could take you from subpar to great. That could take you from a bad situation to a great situation. There's so many different things you can do with a good partnership, but everyone needs to find that and truly value relationships, not just try and do it on your own.
This has been great. I mean, we could do 2 or 3 of these, and who knows, we may do because you guys have so much in you that I think the world needs to hear, and that's why people are being attracted to you because of your authenticity, because of your passion, and because of how you love to serve. If people listening would like to follow you on social media, what is the best way for them to follow you or reach out to you guys?
You want to do yours, man?
Yeah, we have at Bridgewater.performance for the gym. And then for me, it's at Coach Bridgewater _. And that's it. Yeah. You can talk.
So for me, it's just Keith Kahfeldt on Facebook. On Instagram, it's at Keith Kahfeldt, no space. And I'm sure my last name will be, and it's a mess. It'll be in the show notes. Also, a quick plug, that Elite Training MKE. Look up at Elite Training MKE. That's going to be our online platform.
Oh, yeah. And my Facebook is Johnny Lion Bridgewater. I can't accept any more friends, but I do now have a public figure page that is climbing, so you can like that, and I share very similar content.
Oh, fantastic. Well, it's been a pleasure talking with both of you. When you sent me your bio, and Keith, you talked about that you focused on 3 areas of development, and they were physical, mental, and spiritual. And that came through loud and clear today, not just for your clients, but for the relationship that you two have with each other. And that's special. I don't think you should ever forget it and keep it at the forefront of what you do. So again, thank you for your time. And this is David Cook signing off from this episode of Paralysis to Purpose, the podcast, reminding you as always that your ability to endure is always greater than your willingness to endure.
You can do anything you put your mind to.
Thanks for tuning in to Paralysis to Purpose. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Paralysis to Purpose on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. To purchase his book, visit davidcookspeaks.com. Be sure to tune in next time for more inspiring conversations with David Cooks.
I just kept going because of the greed that I had, right? Everything was money oriented. Everything was, how do I make the next dollar? Regardless of how much effort I put into it, or regardless of the emotions of my family or my coworkers. I truly became a monster, right? So that was the divine intervention that I needed. And you know who actually gave me the advice? My doctor.
Next time on Paralysis to Purpose.
It's an honor for me to have David Mansilla here today.
When my doctor came back, she sat me down, she showed me the papers, and she said, David, you're a young 40-year-old man. You're killing yourself. For what? What's going to happen to you if you can no longer work because you actually die? What will money do in your life once you're dead? That's what changed. That's what saved my family and changed me dramatically.
Paralysis to purpose.